vlog week 9 right with me, but since I finished my script the other day, last week, since I finished the script last week, we're gonna do something a little special today. And instead of watching me write, I'm gonna go back in time. I'm gonna bring it back to the past, where I wrote a comic. It's called the Sunday Daily, and not only did I write it, I drew it, and I have it right here. Move on. I'm gonna explain to you how a comic works. So a comic is essentially, one comic is made up of it's called an issue, which is 22 pages that's written and drawn. And usually comics go up to, so it could be a limited edition, which is usually a limited series, which is usually 5 to 10 issues, which make up a story. Or it could be a long run, which could be 1 to 20 issues, 1 to 50, 1 to 60, 1 to 100, 144, like Invincible. Have you ever seen that show? The comic runs 145 issues, and it's collected in things called omnibuses, which just essentially is a lot of issues together, like 30 or 40 at a time, telling the whole story. So my story consists of 6 issues, I think it is, or 5, but I only drew and wrote. Well, I wrote all 6, but I only drew 3 of them. So I have half of them, and I give up after that. I moved on to bigger and better things. And not really. And so I'm gonna read to you the first issue. See, issue number 1, and it's called the Sunday Daily. And this particular issue is called The Thing with Wings. So how I'm gonna do this is I'm just gonna read it, and there's gonna be a page on the screen. And you guys I would say you guys could read it with me, but when I imported the file, it's really blurry. So I'm just going to show you the original piece, and you just have an idea. So this is how it looks like. Yeah. Okay. The city of Frisco, Texas is celebrated for the safest city in the country award. Did you know that Frisco is home to the National Video Game Museum? Whoever said that video games cause violence never heard of Frisco, a city created for a world outside reality. It seemed nothing of great danger could happen. But as all things are created, as convergent boundaries collide, streams of water absorb, and green flourishes, eventually... So you see this? It looks really punk. They erode. A little demon. It's a little my interpretation of a demon, but I actually just got it from Google. So you look up like little imps. This one pops up. I just drew that. Okay, so that was the first page. Now we move on to a random person's house. That's in the city of Frisco. Could you just eat your food? Why are we eating together? Are you dying or something? Your father's trying to have a nice family dinner. It just seems you guys have bad news. No one's dying. So the family's just fighting. Why would you say that, Johnny? And then we see the little mischievous imp right there looking through the window. So we cut to the next day. For the first time in a long time, the ever so happy city witnessed a murder. And what happens when a firecracker is thrown at a coop of sleeping chickens? Panic. And then we see our main character. She's a journalist coming into the city. This town takes pride in its safety measure. How could something of this magnitude happen under your watch, Sheriff? As safe as this city is, violence can only be halted for so long. There goes the award this year. I don't feel safe, Sheriff. Yeah, what are we going to do about this? Frisco Police Department are on the hunt to find who did this. Till then, lock your doors. Curfew will be at sundown. Thank you. And then we see her little notepad, the Sunday Daily Notes. Casey. That's the main character's name is Casey. So now she's walking around the neighborhood. Of course, who would open their doors after today's events? Hi, ma'am. Safety. Webster's dictionary defines safety: the condition of being protected from unlikely to cause danger, risk, or injury. And she's knocking random people's houses, and she meets this lady. And then we see cameras, locked doors. We see security systems. So we see that this town is super safe, right? That's just me making that point a little more noticeable. So now she's talking to the lady that opened the door. A massacre happened on the street. I can't live anywhere. At least in Dallas it was expected. I thought my gun hole days were over. I left the big city. Sleeping with my 22 under my pillow is uncomfortable. I'm sure it is, ma'am. Would you know anyone that would want to hurt the Guzmans? That's my last name, so little Easter egg. This town is made up of retirees and upper class blue collar born families. Unless we have a Jeffrey Dahmer around, I wouldn't know. A random act of violence? Do drifters come around often? We get visitors from all over the world. What does the safety city look like? The answer is suburban land. Kids go to school. We get groceries, neighborhood watch, the works. Neighborhood watch? We have the title to some geezer blue house with the RV at the end of the block. What's to watch? I know, hindsight's 2020. I asked the question, are we really safe? We lock our doors, we set up cameras. No security. I'm a reporter for the Sunday Daily. I have questions about last night. I heard you're the neighborhood watch. You heard correctly. There, I'm watching over the neighborhood. Got my good eye on it too. But if someone wanted to inflict harm, all the camera does is spectate, and all the lock does is trap. So this dude, when I was drawing him, he was inspired by that weird looking old geezer guy from the Waterboy. You ever seen that movie? The little demon himself, the little imp. On the account that I am sounding cynical, and we see him walking around, we see him touching something, my beliefs are yet to be proven wrong. And then he starts flying. I gave him Crimson Chin. See that? It is Crimson Chin right there. Okay, so on the next page, we're inside the old man's house, and we can see that he has bugs and things of that nature. You see, I got bees in this one, a scorpion in this one. I'm not sure what those are. Beautiful collection you got there. It's fun keeping them locked like that there. Aggravates them. I don't mean to take your time from your day. Just want any information you have. Not much to see, at least with this good eye. And then we see the ambulance is coming, and then she runs out. We see that the house is burning, and then we see that the flying imp has reached the house, and we see that he's the culprit of it. And she goes, "What's that?" And then we see that he flies away, and she gets in her car, and then she leaves. And then we get a couple. I really like this. I really like this picture where it has we see the imp over the forest, and I really like how I drew this. It's really it feels grunge, which that's what I was going for. And then we see that she's driving, her tire pops, she skirts, she hits outskirts, and then she realizes that she's by herself in the silence. Here's cackling, so that the little imps is following her, because the imp in mythology is known to be like a jester, like a joker. So he's playing, he's playing with her, and that's what we see in this scene right here, where she's getting out the car, and she opens the door. She goes, "In the name of safety, I follow the number one rule." We see that she got a gun, and then she goes out the forest, and she tries to, she's all about the business. Yeah, and then the next page we see that she's alone in the forest. The idea of safety is self-destructive. The city is a great example. A habit is constructed until it unwinds, but at that point it's too late, like a man in a labyrinth, trapped. You see that she's in the forest, walking by herself, and then she runs. She's just lost, and she's, where am I? And we see that the forest is really engulfing her. You see that there's a little orb, a little white orb, and the little demon sees it, and he's intrigued, and he starts flying towards it. And he follows it, and it leads him to somewhere we don't really see. And we find out that it was a trap, and now he's locked up. But by who? Boom, the door closes, and there's a guy, we can see that the guy closed the door. So we have to follow this page like clock. He closed the door, and then we see this man whistle. He leaves, and that's got a lot of questions now. Who was that? And then Casey walks to that exact same spot. She sits down, she sighs, she looks at the tread marks. Who's been here? And then she looks at the sun's finally rising. She leaves out. Fuck, they could have gone anywhere. Wonderful. And then she looks outside, and that her car's right there. Now she's driving. This neighborhood has endured a tragedy, one that has no suspect, no witnesses, no answers. Now they panic. The murderer is still out there. She drops her gun. Their safety has been questioned, and she just drives. Maybe they will all embrace the Texas spirit and armed to the teeth. And she drives into the neighborhood. the last page. There's a thin veil between the inexplicable and mental instability, and even smaller one between this world and the next. You see the van driving, and the van drives into what looks like a cave. We get closer. The van drives inside the cave. I question how small the veil is at times. What caused these murders? This sudden attack? Is it related to what I saw along the tree lines? And then we see there's a door closing, and closes the cave. And then we see behind, and it's called the Sunday Daily. There's a connection. I, for one, don't believe in coincidences. Then, as the next day she goes back to work, the newspaper press, where she's a journalist. I need a shower. She locks her car. There has to be more. I'm missing something. I'm going to find it. We find out that she's now in the front of the building that the van went inside, and that's like the cliffhanger for the next episode, where she's part of she works whatever's going on in this cave, and these men that took this imp, she's somehow in the middle of it. And what happens? I guess we'll find out. Okay, so that's the first issue of my comic, the Sunday Daily, issue number 1. So yeah, you can see this is my first ever comic, and you can tell because it's really rough around the edges. I do like the story, I do like where I went with it, but you can tell that when I first wrote this, I had no idea where I was going with it, because where the story does end up going is way different from where I initially was going to do. I was going to do an episodic like adventure where she goes and tries to find because she thinks that, so in the comic, in the issue, she sees the little demon, and and she starts believing in like otherworldly monsters and things of that nature. So I was gonna do the initial story was that she's gonna go and find more of these creatures, because now she knows they exist. But what ended up happening was not that. I took the story another route. See this, the next one, the Sunday Daily number 2, a normal day at work, where we find out more about her job and how she's getting made fun of at work for being the one that walked into work crazy and talking about, mythical creature that she saw, little devil. But we find out that she's not crazy, and that there is more to the story than meets the eye. And then we find out a lot fast too, because the next story, I'll probably do another video towards what happens. But in the next story, we find out that what this cave's about, what's going down in the cave, and I also use a dichotomy of her normal day at work to contrast and compare those two different things, which I think is pretty fun, because we go from one scene where it has her in her like mundane job to the people who work inside the cave and their extraordinary job that they do, which we don't find out what is specifically do, but we know that it is in a cave, and an emergency happens, where an emergency does happen at work, but it's two different things, and it's kind of funny. So yeah, issue number 1, and I'm excited because I finished the script, read you a little bit of things of my past. Bada bing, bada boom.